Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moments. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of upcoming episode of Soul Land 3 Legend of the Dragon King Part 70 based on novel. So let's start. Not only had Tang Wulin won, it had been a stomp. Was he waiting for this the entire time? Even though Xie muttered this under his breath, Xinyi heard him clearly. He's just a 13-year-old kid. How could he be so patient? This is just. Unknown to Xinyi, Tang Wulin's second profession was that of a lonesome blacksmith. Since the day he met Mang Tian, his temperament had been taken to the grindstone and continuously sharpened to this very day. He had been forging since he was 6 years old. 7 years was more than enough to forever alter the life of a person without talent, let alone the peerless blacksmithing prodigy that was Tang Wulin. Student number 10 soon woke up, her eyes instantly moving to stare at Tang Wulin in disbelief. She reflected on the match and how she lost, but no matter how she looked at it, she couldn't understand how he had snatched victory with his soul power depleted. What is up with his body? And just what was that purple light in his eyes? She had fainted in the final moments of the battle, and the snow had obscured everyone else's line of sight, so no one had clearly seen what happened. Next, Xinyi said. Xie and student number 2, the slender one, entered the arena at the same time. Tang Wulin returned to his companions. Not a single word was exchanged as he immediately sat down cross-legged and began meditating using the mysterious heaven method. His opponent had been powerful and had pressured him immensely, draining all of his soul power. There were 2 mysterious trials remaining, and although he already had the 60 points required to pass the exam, he still needed enough strength to help his teammates pass them. His number 1 priority was to have the entire team enter Shrek Academy. For his sake, his teammates had nearly lost their chance to enter this sacred academy. Although he didn't say anything about it, such deep loyalty had been engraved upon his heart. Begin. The 2 combatants burst into action. Xie charged straight at his opponent. As an agility-type soul master through and through, close-quarters combat was his only option. Student number 2 rushed at Xie as well, his eyes possessing an eerie calm beyond his years. The gap between the 2 rapidly closed. In terms of speed, Xie was definitely the victor. Neither had released their martial soul yet. They were both waiting for an opening. Their soul rings only appeared when the distance between them had shrunk to a mere 10 meters. Their soul ring configurations were identical, 2 yellow and 1 purple. However, the way in which they manifested was completely different. While Xie now wielded the light dragon dagger, his opponent underwent a monstrous transformation. The instant their soul rings had appeared, student number 2's slender body swelled with strength, his purple soul ring flashing with light. He's already using his 1000-year soul skill. The Shrek Academy student's body inflated like a balloon, his clothes bursting into shreds and leaving only undergarments made of some insanely elastic material. Brown hair now covered his body. Although he still retained somewhat of a humanoid shape, he definitely didn't look human anymore. At 4 meters tall, he towered over Xie with 2 burly arms attached to his broad shoulders. His body seemed to rumble with raw power. Upon seeing this, Xie wanted to run back to Tang Wulin and give him a big thumbs up for his suggestion. We really can't judge Shrek Academy students by appearances alone. This guy's martial soul has to be a giant gorilla. Maybe it's even the... As Xie pondered this, his opponent finished transforming and launched an attack. 2 massive arms recklessly smashed the ground. Xie leaped into the air in response, brandishing his light dragon dagger to unleash a golden blade of light. Lines cut into the walls and floor of the arena, rippling with golden light and working to counter the quaking ground. The shock wave below Xie left him astonished. If he had been just a second slower, he would have immediately lost. Student number 2 didn't even bother to dodge the light dragon blade. He simply lowered his head and met it head-on, then shot towards Xie, clearly unaffected by the attack. Even though Xie was an agility-type soul master, his opponent's leap far surpassed his own. Student number 2 looked like a monster as he soared towards Xie, his 2 arms swinging towards Xie with the might of a mountain. He's so strong. Unable to exert any force in the air, Xie split into 3 clones, each kicking off of the other 2 and speeding in 3 different directions. It was an ingenious play to keep out of range of the monstrous student number 2. This shock filled the faces of the Shrek Academy students. Unknown to Xie, all of them were observing his match with keen interest since he had actually picked student number 2, the strongest of the 10 arranged opponents. Xie splitting into 3 clones didn't faze student number 2. His first soul ring lit up, and he threw 3 lightning-fast punches. The pressure of his punches made the air hiss. Xie was stunned to find each of the 3 blasts of air heading for each of his clones. Heavens! What sort of monster is this guy? How can his attacks be this terrifying? However, even in such a helpless situation, the 3 shimmering clones dashed through the air once more, seemingly kicking off of thin air to escape the attack by a hair's breadth. A trace of surprise finally flashed through his opponent's eyes. He had just witnessed Xie's third soul ring light up a second time. Both sides returned to the ground at the same time. Considering what happened up to this point, it was clear that student number 2 held the upper hand, but it wasn't an overwhelming advantage. Even though he used his third soul skill to immediately try to smash the nimble boy, Xie managed to escape his barrage of air blasts. In a battle, the attacker always became exhausted faster than the defender. Since their ranks were about equal, Xie managed to seize a tiny advantage this way. However, that was all in theory. The reality of battle had yet to be tested. Xie was painfully aware of his own shortcomings. Although his opponent had gone all out with their third soul skill, he had done the same. The overwhelming pressure his opponent exuded forced him to use light dragon clones to get some breathing room, but the 3 punches that followed had forced him to bring out shadow dragon clones too. Xie's response had been clever, but it took a lot out of him, maybe leaving him a bit more tired than his opponent. Xie could only rejoice in the fact that he possessed the mysterious heaven method. With its recovery power, he was confident that he would be able to barely outlast his opponent. Without making a move, student number 2 patiently observed Xie's 3 clones running around in different directions. Although he had mighty ranged attacks at his disposal, it was still impossible for him to attack in 3 directions at once. The range of his attack couldn't cover the entire arena. As a Shrek Academy student, he naturally had an abundance of combat experience, so he had a hunch that his opponent would strike soon. Using a 1000-year soul skill that produced 3 clones had to be a huge drain on Xie's soul power, that left him no other option. And student number 2's hunch was correct. The instant Xie's feet touched the ground, he shot toward his opponent. With both light and shadow dragon clones now active, he had no time to dally. His opponent was a power-type soul master who also had frightening ranged options, these 2 traits placing him in a league of his own. Without his clones, Xie would have found it difficult to endure his opponent's onslaught, but with them out, his soul power was quickly running out. The 3 visible clones, now much faster than before, charged at the solitary figure in the center of the arena. Xie rushed in, this time without employing his light dragon blade. Student number 2 simply stood there, his grim face and titanic figure lending him the impression of an immovable mountain. As Xie's second soul ring lit up, his 3 light dragon clones burst into action to unleash a light dragon storm. Xie was an agility-type soul master, which meant he had exceptionally high attack power. His current opponent, however, possessed equally impressive defensive capabilities, to the point where he could simply shrug off the light dragon blade. However, light dragon storm was on a completely different level. Xie was confident the attack would injure his opponent as long as it landed. Student number 2 responded to the attack, the motion of his burly arms all too familiar for Xie. If Tang Wulin weren't currently meditating, his eyes would definitely go wide. Student number 2 was using a Tang sect secret art, controlling crane, capturing dragon. Xie felt an aura expand outwards violently from student number 2's position. Upon impact, his clones were knocked out of light dragon storm. He then saw his opponent make a pressing motion with his hands, his second soul ring lighting up as he did so. Their air in the arena suddenly changed. As it began to rumble like thunder, Xie's 3 light dragon clones and his 3 shadow dragon clones were sent flying backwards. The thundering roars roused Tang Wulin from his meditation. He opened his eyes, only to see Xie's clones being sent flying, and then converging in the air to reform into one. Student number 2 stomped off the ground, launching himself into the air like an artillery shell. His first soul ring lit up and he threw a punch. A shockwave propagated outwards. This time, Xie was in no position to use his clones to dodge. Repeated usage of his soul skills had left his soul power and mind in chaos, not to mention the damage he had received from being sent flying. A green light flashed over, dragging Xie toward the ground and out of the shockwave's path. Student number 2 ceased his advance. He bowed to Xinyi and returned to the side of his fellow Shrek Academy students. The match was over. It was Xie's defeat. From start to finish, only 5 minutes had passed. Xie was suppressed the entire time, and without Xinyi's timely intervention, he would have even been gravely injured. This was the strength of a Shrek Academy student. In the face of true strength, twin martial souls or soul master type compatibility meant nothing. Tang Wulin was stunned. What if I had been the one to pick him? Would I have been able to last that long? Could I defeat him? He had no answer to these questions. He simply couldn't fathom the depths of student number 2's strength. Student number 2 had already returned to his original form, his clothes back to fitting tightly around his slender figure by the time he reached his classmates. Tang Wulin gulped. This guy is really powerful. Xie's defeat wasn't disgraceful. He was able to display his full strength, but his opponent was simply overwhelming. Xie returned to his teammates with his shoulders hanging low. Not only did he receive a measly 3 points on this trial, he would also have more points deducted at the end for failing a trial. Shrek Academy didn't care how overwhelmingly powerful his opponent was since he had chosen his opponent by himself. Tang Wulin cast a solemn look at him. Why didn't you just keep running away from him? You knew how strong he is. Xie bitterly laughed. My clones use up too much soul power, but without them, I had no way of resisting his ranged attacks. I never stood a chance in this tiny arena. If the arena was larger, then I might have had a chance. Tang Wulin furrowed his brows. You reflect on your battle. Yes, your clones do use a lot of soul power, but have you forgotten? Your opponent was only that strong because he was also using his 1,000-year soul skill. How could his rate of consumption be any lower than yours? You have twin martial souls and the mysterious heaven method. Soul power consumption is the last thing you should lose in. Why couldn't you at least last 10 minutes? There's no way his attacks can cover the entire arena. You have 3 clones, so if you had sent them in different directions, he wouldn't have been able to do anything. You just had to control the distance between you and your clones. Instead of acting first, you should have just fought a battle of attrition. It might take more soul power to maintain your clones the further they are from each other, but that's still better than being defeated in one hit. Do you have anything to say for yourself? After listening to Tang Wulin's lecture, Xie slapped his thigh. You're right. I can't believe I forgot that guy was also using his 1,000-year soul skill. I've been fighting too many soul beasts lately, so I even treated him like a soul beast. Xie's voice had carried all the way to the other end of the room. Having just finished putting his jacket back on, student number 2 went stiff for a moment before raising his head to scowl at Xie. Sensing his opponent's gaze, Xie turned to meet it. His expression was haughty, as if to declare he would win the next time they fought. Tang Wulin couldn't help but chuckle. He had pointed out Xie's mistakes not only to help him, but also to raise his morale. Isn't this guy a bit too resilient though? He was all depressed just a minute ago. When they finished talking, Gu had already entered the arena. She looked at student number 2, a strange light flickering in her eyes. Her opponent entered the arena. It was student number 1. This student was ordinary beyond belief, practically indistinguishable from any random person found on the street. He calmly walked over to stand opposite of Gu. Begin. With Xinyi's declaration, the third match started. This was a crucial match for Gu. If she scoring badly, would essentially mean that she wouldn't pass the exam. Winning was her only option. Soul rings rose up beneath both of them, but to everyone's shock, student number one's 3 soul rings were all purple. He had 3,000-year soul rings. Student number 2 had been terrifying powerful, but he only had 2 yellow and 1 purple soul rings. GUU could only begin to guess how strong her own opponent was. Generally, only range-type soul masters would immediately release their soul rings the moment a battle started. From the actions of both parties, it was clear this would be ranged battle. In reality, it really did play out this way. Student number one's eyes glinted as his first soul ring lit up. He shot his hand into the air, an illusory sphere of light materializing close to his palm, strands of blue, green, and white light dancing around his fingers. He chanted a few verses and a protrusion clawed its way out of the initial sphere. Once it reached the ground, it transformed into an enormous illusory hound. The hound's body was lit in a wreath of flames, and as the yellow and orange grew brighter and more turbulent, its shape began to resemble a lion. Though smaller than lion-type soul beasts, it still seemed domineering. A lion mastiff? Is this a soul skill or a spirit soul? Tang Wulin was in awe. Could it be a summoning-type martial soul? But this lion mastiff doesn't look like something a soul elder should be able to summon. The lion mastiff roared at the heavens, the air trembling at its declaration of might. Its gaze landed on GUU, killing intent almost tangible. Materialize. Student number one jabbed a finger at the beast, conducting rays of light into its form. In an instant, the lion mastiff's body became more corporeal. Little lion, go! Student number one was dead set on GUU's defeat. Like a flash of lightning, the lion mastiff pounced on her. He has 3 purple soul rings, so that means he only has 1 spirit soul. Since the summoned beast has a name, maybe that's his spirit soul? Never before had Tang Wulin witnessed someone using their spirit soul as the primary means of battle. But it was nothing too bizarre in Shrek Academy. It wasn't as if GUU stood twiddling her thumbs while her opponent prepared his attack. She waved her hands in the air in a controlled beat, her 3 twinkling soul rings revolving around her. Then, her rhythm changed. All 3 soul rings lit up at once, trembling slightly in unison. Which soul skill she was using was anyone's guess. In a flash of azure light, GUU conjured a ball of ice in her palm that was 1/2 meter in diameter. She slapped it again and again, and the sphere of frozen water trembled with each strike. The lion mastiff charged at her. As it accelerated in speed, its fur stuck out like the tail end of a blazing meteor. Yet, GUU was the picture of boredom. To her, this was nothing more than a chore. She shot an ice ball at the beast when it neared. Her next action was incomprehensible to Class 0. GUU began walking back toward Tang Wulin with her back to the lion mastiff. Just what is she doing? While almost everyone was flabbergasted, the lion mastiff stretched its maw wide, firing a scorching golden-red fireball. However, the meeting of fire and ice played out breathtakingly. The ice ball exploded into countless icicles, all homing toward the lion mastiff. Jaws dropped when the projectiles flickered, changing from a frigid blue to a deep green mid-flight. At the same time, a third of them vanished in a flash of silver, before reappearing right in front of student number one's nose. These paragons of sharpness surrounded him in a dome and attacked on the spot. Not good. This was his first time encountering something like this. Because his priority had been strengthening the offense of his lion mastiff, he left himself open to attacks. Several of the green wind icicles melted on impact, but some evaded that fate. Aided by gusts of wind, the projectile spiraled in the lion mastiff's direction, leaving it to endure the barrage. The lion mastiff roared, its coat of flames diminishing, its figure growing transparent. And then, it disappeared. The battle ended. Before student number one was impaled, Shenyi jumped in to protect him. Lucky for him, or else he'd be a glorified pincushion. Shenyi had not been optimistic about student one's chances from the very beginning. True to that, GUU's control of the elements utterly suppressed him. After all, she was someone the Silver Moon Dolor had recognized. It was obvious that GUU, the girl who caught Elder CAI's fickle eye, would emerge victorious. Though, Shen hadn't expected the match to finish so quickly. By the battle's official end, Gu Yu was standing at Tang Wulin's side, looking as calm as ever. She had decided on an instant victory since night had already descended. There was no doubt that Gu Yu got a full 10 points, granting her a total of 48. Her chances of entering the outer court were looking hopeful with 2 trials left. Xu Xiaoyan was the last to go. Before she went up, Tang Wulin whispered a few words into her ear. She raised her head in astonishment. Really? Like that? Tang Wulin raised a brow, a gentle smile on his lips. Just try it out. It's time for you to go. Okay. Xu Xiaoyan nodded. She didn't have much confidence in herself. Among the students of Class 0, she was undoubtedly the weakest. Assisting in team battles was doable with her control abilities, but fighting one-on-one was practically out of the question. To make up for her weaknesses, she focused more on her strengths than her brother, as evident in the differences between their ice spears. While her brothers focused on penetrating power, Xu Xiaoyan's was all about freezing. In fact, Tang Wulin's cultivation plan for her perfectly maximized her strengths. So, this trial was disadvantageous for her either way. Night or day, it didn't matter. Thankfully, she calmed down once she stepped foot in the arena. After 3 years of combat experience with her teammates, Xu Xiaoyan obtained a firm grasp on her emotional state. Besides, she was just as devious as her captain. Her opponent was the muscular young man, student number 6. Begin, Shen Yi promptly declared. 2 yellow soul rings materialized around Xu Xiaoyan, making her seem weak and pitiful. She stumbled to catch the item conjured in her hands. Her opponent also released his soul rings, but when he saw her nearly topple over, he hesitated. The scene of the frail little girl before him screamed outlandish. Although Xu Xiaoyan held her staff after releasing her soul rings, her right hand gripped a jet-black hammer. No one could make it out clearly from the distance. Even so, its heaviness was noticeable, since she had to lean on her staff to keep balance. Just what is going on? Is that a soul device? But this trial forbids them. Shen Yi eyed Xu Xiaoyan for a moment, but she held her tongue in the end. The reason was simple. That hammer wasn't a soul device because it lacked the slightest bit of soul fluctuations. After Xu Xiaoyan's first soul ring lit up, a massive ice wheel appeared in front of her, its diameter no less than 1/3 of a meter. Then, she duct-taped the hammer to it. She levitated the wheel of ice, which swayed back and forth from the added weight. Looking like a struggling kitten, she raised her staff, directing the contraption at her opponent. Her actions went beyond strange. They transcended to the realm of bizarre. Bearing the weight of the hammer, the ice wheel flew forth like an inebriated snail. It looked like it would drop at any moment. This is how she's attacking? The Shrek Academy students watched with odd expressions, furrowed brows and pinched noses. They had seen astonishing things before, though never something so uncanny. It was an unprecedented battle style. She expects to win like this? Will that toy even reach him? Xu Xiaoyan paid no regard to their stupor. Her second soul ring lit up and a spear of ice congealed before her. Student number 6 finally made his move, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. Is this girl a comedian? How did she make it all the way to the 8th trial? Did she give up on all the previous trials? Does that mean she's just going through the motions of taking the trial now? But when he thought of the guillotine trial, a shiver ran down his spine. No way, that trial isn't that easy. I can't underestimate her just because of how delicate and strange she looks. A flash of light lit his surroundings and a crystal ball, flickering with opaque light, appeared in front of him. His 3 soul rings moved to hover above it. Tool martial soul, crystal ball. Crystal, crystal, deviate. He shouted, ignoring the ice wheel in the air. It was just a slow plaything that posed no threat to him. His first soul ring lit up and white filled his eyes. The crystal shone in response. Suddenly, Xu Xiaoyan's ice spear changed paths mid-flight and instead flew toward the ice wheel that slowly spun in the air. His move was quite clever, using Xu Xiaoyon's ice spear to attack her own ice wheel. This isn't good. Xu Xiaoyon's heart thumped. If she let him have his way, then she would lose this match. Left without a choice, she chose this critical moment to reveal her cards. Purple light shone within her eyes, stunning her opponent. Xu Xiaoyon's purple demon eyes wasn't any weaker than Tang Wulin's, powerful enough to disturb her opponent's mind despite his strong spiritual power. His control over the ice spear slipped. Xu Xiaoyan waved her staff, regaining control of her ice spear. With spiritual power over 200 points now and an elemental control-type martial soul, long-distance control was her forte. The ice spear traced an arc in the air, aiming at student number 6 again. At this moment, everyone's attention was focused on the ice spear. No one noticed the ice wheel speeding up. Though it wasn't much, there was a clear difference. Xu Xiaoyan raised her staff high in the air, an air of divinity enveloping her. The stars in the heavens that shine forever tranquil, grant me strength. Star wheel. Lines of resplendent starlight descended onto her ice staff, transforming it into the star wheel ice staff. Her first soul ring lit up again, a golden star wheel appearing beneath student number 6. The moment Xu Xiaoyan used her purple demon eyes, she dropped her epitome of clumsiness act and her moves became smooth like a cat's. Everything, including her ice spear, changed under the influence of her mutated martial soul. Once her staff transformed into the star wheel ice staff, it cut her connection with the ice wheel and ice spear. And only now did the others notice the ice wheel above student number 6's head. No longer supported by Xu Xiaoyan's ice staff, it plummeted under the weight of the hammer straight toward student number 6's head. At the same moment, the ice spear arrived before him. The dazed student number 6 abruptly discovered that the ice spear had appeared right in front of him. His second soul ring lit up. His crystal ball followed suit, light spiraling out to disintegrate the ice spear into specks of ice element that quickly melted. He had used his second soul skill, decomposition. In a certain sense, Xu Xiaoyan had chosen the weakest of the 10 available opponents. Student number 6 was an support-type soul master, and was not suited for direct participation in battles. But this did not mean he was weak. His forte was giving others a taste of their own medicine. His instinct screamed warning. He raised his head just in time to see the spinning hammer fall toward him. Is she trying to distract me with the ice spear so her hammer will hit me? Isn't her plan weird? But if I get hit by that hammer, even I will. He subconsciously tried to take a step to the side, the easiest way to evade the hammer. However, something strange happened. The star wheel underneath him illuminated. He hurriedly roused his soul power to activate his third soul skill, but it was too late. Chains of starlight shot out of the ground and bound him tightly. His head still looking upward, he could only watch in horror as the hammer descended and arrived before his eyes in a flash. That hammer would surely knock him out, or even break his skull. However, no matter how he struggled or urged his soul power to move, his body remained motionless. This was the absolute control of astrological attributed soul skills. Bullets of sweat ran down student number 6's forehead. The hammer had stopped an inch above his head. Xinyi took the hammer in her hand, curiously weighing it before moving to stand in front of Xu Xiaoyan. An odd smile peeked out. "Girl, nice acting." Xu Xiaoyan smiled sweetly, "Thank you for your praise." Though those 1,000 refined tungsten hammers weren't light, they weren't heavy for a 2-ringed soul master. Even a ranged-type soul master wouldn't stagger when holding it. Xu Xiaoyan had purposely pretended to stagger under the weight of the hammers to draw everyone's curiosity and mislead her opponent into giving her the chance to set up her attack. This was why Xinyi had called it an act. This girl would have lost if she made the slightest mistake. Who would have thought a metal hammer without the slightest bit of soul power would be the deciding factor in this match? The greatest weakness of the Star Wheel shackles was its lack of offensive power. Apart from that, it also immobilized Xu Xiaoyan during its use, meaning she could not follow up with an attack. So, Tang Wulin had secretly given her one of his heavy silver bracelet rings when he whispered the battle plan into her ear, telling her how to take out the tungsten hammer. He hadn't needed to instruct her any further than that. She knew best how to take advantage of her frail appearance to win. Shrek Academy's students may have plenty of combat experience, but they were sorely lacking in emotional matters. Xu Xiaoyan, being the little enchantress pampered by the elders in her family, would have them in the palm of her hands in such a battle. 10 points. Apart from Xie Xie, the other three all received 10 points. After the 8th trial, Tang Wulin had 60 points, Ji Yu had 48 points, Xie Xie had 51 points, and Xu Xiaoyan had 50 points. With 2 trials left, their chances of passing were great. Of the 4, only Tang Wulin no longer needed to worry as much about the following trials. It was for this reason that Tang Wulin had gone all out in the 8th trial. Let's move on to the next trial. Complex emotions twisted within Shen Yi's heart. Senior Brothers 4 disciples are really excellent. Though their martial souls aren't spectacular, they don't need to be. After all, not everyone has a mighty martial soul. The only one who stands out in this regard is Ji Yu. That Xie Xie has homogeneous twin martial souls, but they can't compare with true twin martial souls. While Xu Xiaoyan is quite capable, the restrictions on her abilities are too harsh. This video will end here.